We weren't expecting anything for this week. Walking out of the stage, Alltech was like, how did we get 2-0?
Against all odds, one of your undefeated teams is FlyQuest.
I think Chaser is a pretty mediocre player.
Yeah, the flash lands! Just weaves it in! Chaser with the first blood!
I guess he can play well around Sunday, which is like Dignitas' greatest player right now, but I think he's pretty mediocre from what I've seen.
I'm excited to play TSM again. With this team, I feel like we can go toe-to-toe with like any roster.
Big special's low, but Zig gets in. Arrow, nice ball. Big special was super sick.
It'll be fun to play them on more even grounds this time.
Championship Series as fans hunker down for another week of League of Legends action. You can see there's plenty of energy in the arena, but Hive and the rest of FlyQuest are going to be showing off a new set of jerseys today. We'll see if those help them in their quest to continue their undefeated run here in the North American LCS. Afromoo and Darshan getting set up on stage. One of our mainstay teams here looking to make a statement here in week 2 and kind of right the ship for CLG. Hello, everyone. I'm James Dash Patterson. Tonight's temporary tenant of my analyst zone here is Joshua Jat Leesman. Don't get comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, I did not sign the 1-year lease. I stuck with 6 hours.
Yeah.
So if I'm not happy with that, I can just go find a different analyst.
Not even month to month, but security deposit up front. So treat the space well, if you will. Well, going into week 2 of the LCS, we've got teams that have met, missed, and exceeded preseason expectations. The members of FlyQuest, well, they share first place with their former teammates on Cloud9, while TSM, Team Liquid, Dignitas, Phoenix One, CLG, and Immortals all share the 3rd place spot going into the weekend, with Echo Fox and Team Envy at the bottom of the table. Let's take a look at how that may change with our first matches of the weekend. First up, FlyQuest try to extend their terrific start to the split by taking down Counterlogic Gaming, and shortly after that, TSM will have to go head-to-head with EpicSkillshot and Team Dignitas. A couple big matches tonight.
Couldn't really ask for better games on the Friday night. We're all wondering if FlyQuest can maintain that, and we're wondering if CLG was just looking off in week 1. So all this stuff is really just happening right away in week 2, so I couldn't be happier.
Exactly, and the start of the split is what left us with both expected and unexpected results. Best emphasized by the 2 teams that happen to be sitting in first place in Cloud9 and FlyQuest.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at last week and the expectations, Cloud9 was expected to be top 2. They're looking like top 1 after all the stuff they've done. And then, you know, a lot of the power rankings had FlyQuest in dead last. They have a 2-0 head start on that projection, so they're looking much better than that, at least early on.
Right, and of course, if you are going to look at top-tier teams that aren't 2-0, you'd be looking at Dignitas, who, although they did sustain the loss to C9, do look fairly good.
Yeah, they had to play against Cloud9, and then you look kind of all around the league to teams like TSM or CLG, who we're going to see tonight. The perennial top teams, really, in the NALCS, and even Immortals last year, who was so dominant, those teams don't look dominant. So there's a chance we see a new landscape kind of evolving here in 2017.
It's making it very tough to assess the relative power levels of each of the teams coming in. I mean, we had mentioned that TSM Immortals game that took place last week, you know, last split, last season, that would be a marquee matchup. Would
have been the game of the week. They only played twice per split. You put that one in your calendar, you wait for it to happen, and it was just kind of like a throwaway game on Sunday. Then there was a bigger game between Dignitas and Cloud9.
Absolutely, and as we talk about shifting perceptions, both with the teams, we also have to look at the individuals, and a few of them out here are really breaking the mold. And we'll start with Acadian and some of the rookies here.
Yeah, we talked about some of the rookies, and Acadian showed up bigger than any of them. Only jungler in the NALCS after week 1 to have 100% first blood participation. He got that in all 5 games. 4 of them, he actually got the kill. The problem with Acadian is he wasn't necessarily able to transition that into wins. Echo Fox held gold leads for large portions of games, but won very few of them. He's got to work on that, but it couldn't be a better start as far as the first blood. Another guy that really showed up was Lorlo, because people were wondering, is Lorlo going to struggle? Is he going to be able to keep up with all the Koreans in the top lane? And at least after week 1, he looked far better than ever, not just on Maokai, but also on stuff like Fiora. This play against FlyQuest, even though they ended up losing the series, was ridiculously impressive. Solo kills balls in the face of Alltech, then goes and flashes to Alltech, and then still gets away because people were coming back to base. He had a spectacular weekend.
Absolutely, a spectacular series for him. And if we jump back to Acadian, he himself had released in a vlog that he wasn't terribly happy with his play either. Recognizing, yes, I had strong early games, but I couldn't translate those into late. So being very critical as a rookie here at the outset of the season.
Yeah, you can definitely make some waves by having good performances in game, but ultimately you're going to be judged by how well you can win. And someone like Hai has consistently been able to win. He did it again last week. He got Moon to victory, which many people thought he was going to be kind of this Achilles heel for that team, but he looked good as well. So a lot of surprises there in week 1.
Right, Moon, I mean, from last season to this season, unlike Acadian, who we don't have a baseline or an expectation coming in necessarily, with him, underperformer last split, but so far in week 1 is doing a solid job behind Hai in that mid lane.
Absolutely looks solid, and you wonder if they're going to be able to maintain that. It seems like that team has a ton of chemistry. The 3 of them there with Hai and Balls Elimination have over 1,000 competitive games under their 1,000 competitive days under their belt. Just insane.
Absolute absurdity, but that is going to bring us nicely into our first match of the day, which is FlyQuest up against Counter Logic Gaming. Now these teams meet up after facing the exact same opponents in week 1, Team Liquid and Envy.
I was expecting like a huge renovation to their jerseys, but they just changed the
subtle
color
differences.
of their logo. There we go. Higher highs, but really, they faced exactly the same opponents last weekend, which is quite rare, so we can directly compare their performances based off strength of schedule.
Right.
And CLG had issues closing out games. FlyQuest didn't. You look at the average game time these guys played. CLG's average win was 47 minutes and 47 seconds. FlyQuest was 31 minutes and 59 seconds, which was way faster. And you would expect CLG to be more organized because it's not like Afromu was a slacker shot caller or anything.
Yeah.
But Hai and the rest of FlyQuest just looked so much cleaner.
Yeah, with a lead, FlyQuest had no trouble closing out games, exactly as you mentioned, with Afromu at the helm. A lot of times we would say the expectation is that CLG should be able to control a game, having trouble doing that at the very beginning of the season. One player who stepped up last week for CLG was their mid laner, Huhi. But going up against Hai, that's going to be a bigger test for him.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have thought this even coming into the season, but after week 1 performance, Hai was first in damage per minute at 898 on Corki, and his damage share for mid laners was 37.8%, which is actually insane. We're normally seeing that around 30. And even if you just compare, these are just Corki games. CLG's mid laner there, He in the mid lane, and then the rest of NA, 26% versus 38. And yes, it's a very small sample size, but that is incredibly impressive Corki damage. Not to mention he was making plays with that champion. So, He says he has a big champion pool. Hai in the past has had a smaller champion pool that he excels on. Corki's one of those champions. Maybe we see CLG try and take advantage of that.
That's exactly where I was going to go, so you already answered my question, was whether or not Hai is going to get his hands on that Corki again to lead the team. It looks like the teams are just about ready to get into game, but before we send it over to our casters, CLG mid laner Huhi shared with us his thoughts on playing mid this. How do you not know who Huhi is?
I have the right not to know, Dash.
Jesus, I'm done.
Well, people think I have a small champion pool because either I don't have a chance to show off like other champions. So because of 10 bans, it allows me to pick like non-meta champions or like new champions, because in the ban phase 2 we can ban the counter of those champions. Also the meta has changed because of like new assassin rework and stuff, so it's pretty fun to play mid lane right now.